Hey, what's up, guys? rhinoCRUNCH here today, and I am joined with Matt Lightfoot, who works for Bohemia Interactive as a production assistant under the DayZ's lead developer, Dean Hall. What is DayZ? DayZ is a free 2012 multiplayer open-world survival horror mod designed by Dean Hall for the 2009 tactical shooter video game Arma 2 and its 2010 expansion pack Operation Arrowhead. The mod places the player in the fictional post-Soviet state of Russia, or Chernarus actually, where an unknown virus has turned the population into undead zombies. As a survivor with limited supplies, the player must scavenge the world for supplies such as food, water, weapons, and medicine, while killing or avoiding both zombies and other players in an effort to survive the zombie apocalypse. So Matt, thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So my first question is, last time we spoke, it was sometime, I believe it was in November. The earliest date you gave me for standalone was December 20th, I believe, in the video. So my question to you is, it's now January 13th. What's up, man? Where's DayZ Standalone?
Well, as people have seen, at Eurogamer, Rocket said that we absolutely had to release DayZ by the end of the year. Now, we've gone under different aims since then. So then we were just aiming to kind of make the mod standalone with some slight improvements. Now we want to change it. We want to make greater changes to the engine and make bigger changes. That we were like, well, this is going to be a big challenge. Do we do it now before we release an initial build, or do we do it after? And we decided that it would be much better to do it beforehand, so people really acknowledge how much we can achieve in such a small period of time. So ultimately, the challenges we took on blew any initial plans we had out of the water. So that's why there's been a slight delay.
Okay, so that's understandable. I know when we spoke before, I also mentioned DayZ becoming an MMO, and you seemed pretty surprised when I said, it could be at that scale. Is that more of a realization these days?
Yeah, as I mentioned in our last discussion, we've made the improvements to the server client architecture so that there is the possibility there to put a vast amount more players and increase efficiencies on the server. I mean, we've been playing now around with the persistence and things, and it's reminding me of developing the initial DayZ mod. Now where we're redoing the database and things so they're more efficient, so that we won't encounter the same problems as we did with the mod, like lag from the Hive server and problems with that like that. Now, because we're designing it again, being able to see it all coming together is just fantastic.
Excellent. So do you have the server numbers? Can you say what the standard servers are going to be able to hold?
Well, to be honest, I'd rather not, because we've tested it on, maybe one machine fully. Well, I say fully, to a fairly reasonable number, but if we say that, one server is to judge everyone's by, we could have some fairly upset people. So I'd rather we go into the closed technology test that we've announced on Tumblr, and we let people we kind of get an average from the public and from the people. Well, I say the people we've invited, so that we can kind of figure out what on average are people going to be able to do.
Okay, so from the sound of that, it sounds like more than 50. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like more than the current Arma 2 servers. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I don't want if you can't tell me, you can't tell me. I understand.
It's perfectly possible more than 50 players on. However, we've with how the map size. How many players is going to be crowded? Is going to make the map crowded. We then got to question, what else do we want to do? Because with those efficiencies that we've saved, and the changes that we've made, You know, we could add more zombies in. We could add all sorts, and it's what we do with that extra um, power fairly generally. What can we do with those efficiencies? And do we add more layers, or do we not? And that's still something that we yet to finally decide on.
Excellent. So going back to what you mentioned about the closed technology test, which is the alpha, which you invited me into, and I'd like to thank you for. There, you said, actually, Rocket said in the Tumblr there's going to be about 500 to 1,000. When is the most precise date for the alpha release, if you can give me that? I don't know if you can say that, but just the most precise release for alpha testing.
The most release date, the most precise date I can give you, sometime in 2013.
Oh, man.
However, it's imminent. I'm still inviting people now, because inevitably, you know, we want to invite people that have supported the DayZ community and people that have really contributed. So, like the people that helped out in the really early days of the modern things, like Jack Tack and CH Kilroy, people that were on the original server and things. Like, it really takes us back to the old days where it's like, wow, it's come quite a long way. So there's still some people yet to be invited with that. As for the date of it, again, it's yet decided.
Okay, and so when the alpha comes out, I was under the misunderstanding that you did say before that videos were not going to be recorded or not allowed to be published, but you are actually allowing, is that correct? You're allowing alpha footage to be released of the standalone when it's released to us.
Well, I mean, initially, I was wanting to get everybody that's playing on the technology test on an NDA. Wasn't so much to let me phrase it how I want to. Wasn't really to censor people. It was more so that we control who had access to the files. So, you know, ultimately, if we try and hide it, somebody's going to break the NDA. You know. Especially if you try and stop people from sharing videos and things. With the internet the way it is now, it's best for us to, you know, fully endorse that. So the NDA is more to stop people sharing files rather than them sharing videos and pictures and things. Just onto your point about calling it an alpha, many people kind of get maybe misguided as to that. It's more a test for our actual foundation build, which is going to be constantly evolving, and you know, we're going to be adding new things as well as trying to keep it fairly stable throughout. Whereas with normal alpha, it isn't likely to be stable throughout its development.
Okay, yeah, I just called it alpha because, I mean, I don't know, you call me anything, just don't call me late for dinner. But basically, the guys on DayZ Mod, who is it, Griff from the forums. Hi, Griff, how you doing? Here's your plug. He basically is like, hey, man, you called it an alpha, it's not, or you called it a beta, it's not a beta. So, I mean, I didn't know what to call it. If it's closer to being released than, you know, alpha is giving the impression that it's still got a ways to go as far as structure, then... You know, I didn't know. He put on the Tumblr that it was a closed test, so I just assumed alpha. But I don't want to mislead anyone. So anyone listening, listen to what Matt says. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about half the time. I just play the games. So, and that actually brings me to my next point of I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I had predicted, since Bohemia owns DayZ, that the reason that the standalone was being pushed back was because Arma 2 is still one of the leading sales on Steam, and from a business standpoint, it seems retarded. Why would you release a game that is a standalone version of a mod that's still making you money? However, after talking to Matt, that's not the case, is it, Matt?
No. I mean, ultimately, we want to just try and get DayZ out in the technology test as soon as possible. Partly because when we get it out into the technology test and then the actual foundation release, it'll make it much easier for the team that's working on it. As Dean has mentioned, we're burning the candle at both ends. While it's covered in petrol, we are working exceptionally hard. So once we get those initial releases out, and then we're down to bug fixing and coming up with regular updates, the pressure of people constantly asking us, when's it out and things like that, will hopefully be relaxed somewhat.
Excellent. But yeah, just to clarify, so Bohemia doesn't have anything to do with the release of DayZ as far as the timeline. Is that correct? So that's why Arma 2, the correlation between Arma 2 sales and DayZ standalone release being pushed back, they're not correlated, right?
No, they're not correlated. But it's, as you're saying with Bohemia Interactive, considering all the staff on DayZ for Bohemia Interactive, we do have, the company does have an input to its release date, but that's decided by, us as a team, rather than, we're not influenced by Arma sales.
Excellent. Okay. So I'm excited. I know a lot of people are excited for this thing. There's a lot of people watching the release of this, and I'm sure. Do you feel pressure at all, Matt? Are you under any pressure from your job? Yeah.
I'd say the biggest thing is more members of the community. Like, I've had every day. There's maybe 10, 15 people adding me on Skype, wanting to ask me questions about the standalone. I'll get 20, 40 emails a day asking, can people have access to the technology test, or questions about standalone. And then you've got people on Facebook, and I've even had people call me at silly hours in the morning. They've generally got a less favorable reply.
That's funny. So is there any way for members of the community who aren't, I'm really lucky in that I was uploading DayZ footage when, I don't even remember, it was less than 100,000. The website was changed. There was probably 10 DayZ servers out there. So I was really lucky uploading YouTube footage of DayZ early on, so you invited me in. But for people maybe who've been playing early on and not have a YouTube channel, is there a way for people to still get into the closed test?
Well, no, because we want to be more focused. So the less people we have, the more time and resources we can devote to a smaller number. We don't need to manage. We don't need to guarantee so many servers up. We can then focus on, it's much easier to manage the problems, and any problems that is, and then be able to speak to people as to what, and then give people more reason feedback and things. Whereas if you've got an unlimited amount of people to test giving you the same thing 10 times over, you've then got to answer it 10 times in various different places. So us having a fixed number, and a fairly small fixed number, the 500 to 1,000 people means that we can it's somewhat more manageable.
Okay, so you hear that, everybody listening. If you have not been invited, the chances of you getting in are slim at this point. And if you have Matt's phone, don't call him, because you're probably not going to get in that way. Other than that, my final question is, I and other community members have noticed that there's been a favoritism, both on the forums and, at least it seems that way by Rocket himself, that he has against bandits and towards heroes. I think I remember him talking about how they had a heat map for the player deaths in Chernarus, and they didn't want to release it because of the responsibility for players like me getting a hold of that thing and going to areas with the sniper rifle. So are we going to see the same favoritism, or perceived favoritism, in the standalone release for heroes? And are the bandits going to get the shaft again?
I wouldn't say it's favoritism. I mean, if you're a good bandit, I class myself as a bandit because I'm happy to shoot people on sight.
Amen.
Possibly one of my darkest moments. I was walking through Cherno and I heard a father and a son going around and getting loot together. And I noticed I'd got an M14, and I'd noticed that the father had said he picked some up, some magazines. So I thought I'm gonna get those. So I saw one of the characters walk out, and I shot him, and I knew whichever one was round the corner was going to go and try and heal the father or the son that was out there. Turns out it's the son that was in the thing. So the father gingerly looks round, doesn't see me, and then starts to creep out to his son. And then I got him as well and got the mags. So I'm a fairly big bandit. But if you're a good bandit, you'll be able to think, like, where are players to go? So you're looking at airfields and towns and things, and be able to work that out yourself. If we release the heat maps, it would be probably more biased against them, against heroes, and against everybody else, because you're actually physically helping them, whereas now we're not helping either side.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I was just curious because I know in the forums they did. What's his name? Dr. Wasteland got like a special, hero of DayZ or something, and I consider myself one of the best legit bandits in DayZ as far as from what I've seen the other guys on YouTube. And it just seems like we got the shaft, and yes, it is easy killing people in DayZ. It's a lot harder to trust them and then risk yourself being killed. I just hope we don't see the same favoritism or perceived favoritism anyways. Maybe I should be a hero and I won't feel all sad that I'm not getting the same love as the heroes are. But other than that, Matt, thank you for your time, sir. Is there anything? I know that I wanted to make mention of the two developers for Bohemia Interactive just to raise awareness. What are their names again that are in Greece right now?
Ivan and Martin.
Ivan and Martin. Is there anything that my viewers can do as far as to help these two guys? These two guys, for people who don't know Ivan and Martin, they were in Greece and they were arrested on espionage charges. They work for Bohemia Interactive as programmers. They were a part of DayZ's development, at least as far as the map goes. And they are currently, for the past 3 months, they've been in detainment in Greece. So is there anything my viewers can do to help get these guys released?
I mean, possibly the best is one of the major fan sites that's set up by Jerry Hopper and several of the other chaps that are major Arma 2 fans and contributors. It's called a website called helpivanmartin.org. Is probably the best one thing that I can point people towards, because they've got letters and things that people can send to their politicians. And it's, according to the site, it's been 126 days in jail, 4 months.
Wow.
I feel it is after a couple of days.
Okay, so people listening, I'm going to put that website in the description. You guys are welcome to go to that website and try and help get these guys out. Is there any announcements you'd like to release to me, Matt? Maybe instead of the Tumblr, maybe the standalone date or anything like that you'd like to spill before we go?
We genuinely haven't really got anything else to say apart from the Tumblr update. We haven't fixed a date for the release yet, because we're still working on some final things like weapons as entities and the new gear system that really it would be nice to finish before we push out the test and things like that.
All right, I was just trying to get a rise out of you, but
It's always worth a try.
Yeah, it's always worth a try. Matt, thank you again. Always a pleasure, sir. If you don't know what DayZ mod is, you're crazy, and I'll put a link in that in the description. I'll put a link for the description in the description for Ivan and the other guy. And as always, thanks for watching, and I love you all.